Welcome everybody back to Blaze Vision. This is Sid Blaze, your host. And today I'm going to show you how I set up to work in acrylic paints. Now I know some people have trepidation about working in acrylics, primarily because of the speed of the drying. In my case, the way I work, the paint doesn't dry quick enough. That's why in preference, many people prefer oil paints, where you are allowed to work the paint and the blends are a little smoother, but I've actually seen the same beautiful blend in both acrylic and oil paintings. My abilities are not at the level where, blending is fun for me. It's a challenge, but you can work your way around it. And I think my shortcomings is that I'm very impatient. I think if I become a little more patient, my blends will come along smoother, not to, be funny. But anyway, what you're looking at is my general tools. You might notice my tablecloth. What these are actually painter's rags. Prior to that, I was using paper towels at a alarming clip. And I was in, one of my favorite stores, hardware stores, and I saw these rags and I said, well, why? Why not, So I purchased them. This is what they are. They're just painter rags, a 4-pound bag. And what I notice about them is that they have the texture and consistency of undershirts. So maybe this bag is comprised of rags or leftover scraps from a t-shirt or undershirt factory, and they had the brainstorm and say, hey, let's put this in a bag and sell it. Kind of like the pet rock, whereas this has far more use to it. So what I do is I use them pretty much as a tablecloth. Not so much to protect the table, but when I'm painting and just taking a brush as an example, I will use this surface here just to wipe off extra paint. Plain and simple. And it's what I was using paper towels for. And again, paper towels have a life expectancy of one use. Whereas I've been using a handful of rags from this bag that I purchased about 6 months ago. And at the rate that I'm using them for the amount of paintings that I'm making, I suspect this bag will last me a couple of years. So a $10 investment was well worth it. What you'll notice is that I also have an egg carton. I use these plastic egg cartons to, for my paint. They're very convenient. They're reusable. So this is a 30 egg carton. So that's basically 30 receptacles for color. What's cool about it is that once the paint dries or once, you're done using it, you could peel the paint off. That's the feature of acrylic paint, being that it's plastic. It dries to a hard plastic or a soft plastic rather, and you're able to just peel it off. So this becomes reusable. For those of you who don't eat eggs, just ask a friend who does. Just ask them to save you the carton. Now, the way these cartons are, there's a top and a bottom. Only the top works right, or should I say, yes, only the top works right for me, because the bottom has little cups to hold the eggs in place. And when you're mixing the paint, it's just a bit of a, inconvenience to have that little cup there that has a little buildup. So I just stick with the top of these cases. And again, they're like totally durable and beautiful thing. Holding my paintbrushes, you just have leftover jars, spaghetti jars, pickle jars, whatever, anything that could hold your paint. Paintbrushes are cool. What I use these jars for also is for the water that I use to either clean the brush or to thin the paint while I am painting. What's very important though, and looking at your brushes, you realize that the metal on your brushes only go but so high. You don't want the water in the jar to exceed the height of that metal on your brushes. What I'm saying is you don't want the wood on your brushes to get wet. That will just shorten the lifespan of your brushes, and it's all a wrap. You have paint all over these brushes because of my use, but when I put these in these jars to clean off and to then wipe off, put it back into my container, I make sure the water is at a height that it does not exceed the metal holder of the bristles of the brush, so to speak. You could have a couple of these on your table because, naturally the water is going to get dirty. And if you're painting with light colors, you got to keep changing the water. So rather, if you're painting from light to dark colors, you have to keep changing the water. So you could have two or three of these out here, and to each degree, you use one to clean off the excess, then another one to rinse off that little bit, then the third one to rinse off what's left, and then again brush it off onto this your tablecloth of rags, and you're good to go. Now, I have everything up here looking kind of clean and nice right now, but at the end of this video, I'm going to show you how it looks in use. But again, what's great about everything that's going on here is that, again, the egg carton is reusable, and it's a great thing. I also have a cup here, and this also, or a plastic cup, and again, I may have several of these. What these cups are for are to hold that color of paint that I know I'm going to need for a large area. And usually, even that large area paint, it will have varying degrees of color. So that's where the egg carton comes in. And again, I'm going to show that at the end of the video. Always have tape. I don't know what for, but sometimes you got to do an edge or something or whatever. But it's always just good to have tape around. I have a water bottle here, and the water bottle serves a handful of points. First of all, when you're working on canvas, sometimes, especially on the large scale canvases that I work in, not super large, but 5 by 4 feet is a respectable size. And sometimes you may be leaning on the canvas, so to speak, and you might reverse the stretch on it. And you want to keep it tight. So what you can do, and it doesn't matter how many times you paint on this canvas, it doesn't matter how many times, how much gesso you have, but if you take this water bottle and spray the back of the canvas, it will tighten it up again, okay? And you have it on the mist spray. You don't have it on the stream spray. You have it on the mist spray. I also use this to keep my paints moist. Another point or feature that I'll show at the end of the video. And last but not least, I have a hair dryer. Again, the concern with painting with acrylic is that it dries too fast. And the way that I paint, sometimes it just doesn't dry quick enough. And the reason for that is with acrylic paints, if the paint is too wet and you're trying to mix it onto another paint, you will actually not only take up that bottom paint, but you might even take up your gesso. So you have to dry the paint to be able to put paint on top of paint. That's something you really don't do too much in oil paints, because with oil, you really want to blend colors next to each other opposed to on top of each other, because of the fact that it takes so long to dry. Oil paintings initially to touch, from what I understand, take up to 3 months to dry. It's ironic, the late great Bob Ross, who is able to knock out a painting in 30 minutes, is really using a technique that I would think works better for acrylic, as he's using it for a medium, which again takes 3 months to dry. In his technique, he's really not blending colors on top of colors all that much. He's really laying colors on top of colors because he's putting them down at such a thick level, and he's really just going over that area once, maybe twice. Whereas, other oil painting techniques, you're really taking the paint and you're working it and working it and working it, and it takes a month to finish a painting. It's all again in the style and technique of how you work. My point is that sometimes acrylic paint, for my preference, does not dry quick enough, hence the hair dryer. Okay, so we're going to do a quick transition after we've been around the block a few times. I just want to, give a couple points in preserving your paints to make them last longer, again, because they're acrylic and they will dry up. But even in the trays that you see filled with paint here, if I did nothing, this paint would pretty much still be usable the next day. I'm going to show you how you could extend it to a couple of weeks. Okay, now, and I want to give another quick point on mixing paints. Ideally, you don't want to mix more than 3 colors. If you could get away mixing 2 colors, that's even better. But if you have to mix 3 colors, and you usually have to do this when you're creating these muted colors that are just hard to find, especially in acrylics. The interesting thing about oils is that they have like 3 times as many color selections as acrylic paints, because again, you're not really supposed to be mixing colors on top of one another, but side to side. So you want to create that smooth gradation of colors, and oils does that by giving you so many colors. And with that, getting back to what we were talking about as far as mixing paints, what I will do is I will use the cup as noted here, and I will mix my base color. And the base color is the color that, it is what it is. It's the color that's underneath everything that is really the root of what you're coloring on top of. And then I will, using the same base paint, I will create the variation of its colors. I'll add just maybe a little white in the lighter shades. I might add just a little touch of black or brown or maybe even purple or just a dark color to give it that slight muted darkness. And in the case of black, just to point out, and this goes for oils as well, you never use black as a solid color. You always have to mute it. And when I say mute it, you have to mix it with another color just to take away that pure blackness. And the reason for that is for photography. A camera will pick up that black and it'll stand out among all the other colors, and it looks too sharp. So that's why you have to mute it. And even in the proportions of muting, I would say 9 to 1 or 9.5 to 0.5. It could be that little that'll just take off that brilliance of the black color and will look more natural in your painting. Now, where this water bottle comes into place is when I'm done painting for the day, I will just spray just a slight mist. And even in my cup there, I'll spray just a little bit. That film of water on the top will maintain its moistness for 2 days. I could go 2 days without painting with this, and the paint will still be fresh. And if I have to go longer, I will just go back and spray it again 2-3 days later, and it will still retain. It'll be like putting a seal on top of it, to where this mixed paint that I created here will stay like that for I've done it for up to 2-3 weeks. Okay. Now what I will do after I spray it, I will take this was a refrigerator bag, a plastic refrigerator bag, and I will place my tray of paint in it. Try to do this effectively on video, and then I just fold it over, and that will keep it airtight. Not airtight, but again, it'll keep the moistness and the fluid in my paint the way I want it to be. In the case of the cup, I will use cellophane plastic wrap. I know it's a difficult pain in the neck thing to deal with. It's got to be a byproduct. I can't believe that someone said to themselves, I think I want to create a plastic that's hard to deal with. But anyway, I will place it over the cup and even dip it down a little bit so it just takes out a little bit of air. And I'll just place a rubber band around it. And again, that will keep that nice and fresh and good to go. Okay, just a few things I just want to go over again in regards to handling the brushes. I want to point out here, I have a brush that's brand new and a brush that has been slightly weathered. I just want to put these two brushes together. I want to show you how the brush on the right has been around the block a few times, and the brush on the left, of course, is brand new. But you'll notice that here is pretty much still intact with the brush on the right. That's because I take care of these brushes. Now, when I'm painting with them, I'm really I'm kind of hard with them. But it's how you treat them afterwards, which will add to their lifespan. My choice in brushes are nylon opposed to bristle. In fact, I used bristle for years. And what happened was one Christmas a few years ago, my in-laws brought me a bundle pack of brushes, all nylon. And, they gave it to me out of their heart. They didn't know what I was using. And I just, decided to use them, try them out. And I fell in love with them. They are just pleasurable to work with, if that's not getting too personal. This is a store brand brush, Blick, incidentally. I noticed with store brand brushes that, they want you to come back. So their brushes, the quality is pretty good in the sense that, you don't see loose brush hairs on your paintings and whatnot, which is something that could really make you scream once you varnish it and didn't notice it. But anyway, with that being said, these brushes, what you want to do, and again, in taking care of them and to keeping their bristles as great as they are, whether they're, a wide brush such as this or a small brush, you don't want these brushes to soak in water. Now you'll notice that, of course, these two brushes have a different level of metal. And in case of this brush, I wouldn't want the water to exceed this level, but why would I have to have it so high? So in my jars of water, I would really put the water at a level that fits this brush. And again, I may have a couple of rows, or not a couple of rows, but at least a few jars with water in them so I could dip them in each and, again, have a cleaner base of water as I get towards the end of my three jars. Naturally, they're all going to get, color in them, but the jar that you use first to get off the excess paint will be, of course, the dirtiest, and as you go down the line, they'll get cleaner, and it'll just keep you from going to the sink to rinse out your jars, every so often. Again, you don't want them to soak in the water. And by cleaning my brushes, what I will do, and this is also very important, is to use soap and water. I will, go to the sink and, just put a little bit of dishwashing liquid on it, rub it into there, rinse it off. You could do it again if you want to rinse it off. And then when I'm done with the brush, and, I guess even with a large brush like this, I would then just kind of form my hairs the way I want them to look. With this brush, of course, it's a lot easier. And, your brush will dry like that. You'll have that kind of stiffness that it has when you just buy the brush, and it really retains it. So, these brushes can, like I say, last several years. We're going to follow up with with me actually, using this setup in a painting that I've been working on. I've been going back and forth on it because, I just have projects jumping up and taking up, time. I got to do this, do that, and then finally I could get back to this painting. So anyway, long story short, we're going to get into that. And again, I'm not going to be showing you. I'm not concerned with the technique. It's more of the process, because your technique is basically your signature. So I'm not trying to get people to paint like me. That's not the point. I'm just showing you how I do what I do. It could reaffirm those of you who, experts, enlighten those of you who are just starting out. It's just, I'm just sharing my world with you. So anyway, that's all great and good, and we'll be back. Take care. Peace.